May I have your attention, please? Attention, please. Now, if you're a Democrat for president in 20, raise your hand. Just raise your hand. Now, observe this, if you will. There's some people from the Hill, and they seem to think they're qualified to run this land. Now, you've all heard of Sanders, Biden, Warren, Shore.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Auerbach from Artsbeat Radio here on 89.5 FM WSKB. Joining me today at the Cranwell Resort in Lenox, Massachusetts is Dennis Akins. And we are here with the Capitol Steps, who are in residence at Cranwell through August 30th. They're the political satire group that's been around since 1981, performing songs and satire of all things political, from Presidents Reagan through the current one. And joining us today, Barry Barron, who's a longtime member of the Capitol Steps, and Evan Casey, who's also a member of the Capitol Steps. And I'm so glad to have both of you here.
Thanks for having us.
Glad to be here.
So how are you enjoying Cranwell so far?
Well, I've been here, I think, every single year since we started running here.
Wow.
And I love coming up here because in addition to having great audiences, we have time during the day to explore the area, and there's a lot to do here. So I love it up here.
Yeah,
it's like a working vacation.
It's exactly what I would consider it to be too, because we have so much time to ourselves, which is wonderful, and there's such a plethora of things to do, from what you can experience with nature to the arts to the beautiful small town Americana you can experience wherever you go, and that's all wonderful. And then yes, the joyful experience of having good, sophisticated audiences here appreciate what we do is wonderful.
Oh, nice. Oh, nice.
Now, the new show, The Lion Kings, the CD has arrived here.
It's brand new.
You can order it online. You can get it when you come, and I understand that you guys come out after the performance,
Yes.
and you sign their CDs
Exactly.
and all that good stuff. So while we're talking today, if you want more information about the Capitol Steps, go to their website, which is capsteps.com. You can find out where they're performing through the entire summer. Of course, they're here at Cranwell, but they're also in Washington, D.C. every Friday and Saturday night, and in other cities coast to coast throughout the U.S. You can link up to their YouTube channel and see some of the songs and excerpts of things upcoming. They've got a fabulous Facebook page, Twitter feed, and now Instagram. So there's a lot of ways to find out about the Capitol Steps. You can even surf the web while we're all talking. How did you both get involved in the Capitol Steps?
Well, I'm a more recent addition than Barry. I've been in the group for about 11 years, and but I'd known about the Capitol Steps for a while. I graduated as an actor from college many years ago, but at that time, even then in D.C., where I also went to school, you knew sort of the Capitol Steps and what they were, and sort of how they made their mark as musical political satire in the city, but also in the nation. And you also knew that when job opportunities opened up with the Capitol Steps, you should try to seize them, because they don't often come around, because people enjoy the experience of being in the group, and they hold on to them for a long time. Also because having any kind of stability in the world of acting is not something that you can frequently get. So I think at the time I just noticed an audition. I think in the Weekend Post they used to come out, and I don't even know if they still are in the Weekend Washington Post, but I noticed it there, and I submitted my stuff and came in, auditioned for Elena and Mark, the producers, and I guess it went okay. And here I am 11 years later. But my background was originally as a performer. That's what I went to school for. That's what I've been doing since then in D.C. and around in other parts of the country. And so I moved right into this about maybe 5 or 6 years after I graduated from college.
So do you find the roles that you're playing in the Capitol Steps, these various real-life political figures that you're getting to play, are they as exciting and diverse as some of the musical theater roles you've done?
It's different in a good way. These are sort of snapshots and quick hits of that pack a quick punch of comedy, and you take, whether it's Bernie Sanders or Vladimir Putin, which are two of the roles that I play, you take the big things that you can grasp and hold on to, and then you deliver them in the size and scope that's needed to the audience for 2-3 minutes at a time, and then you move on to the next thing very quickly. So it's it's vastly different than doing something that's like a role that you would play for maybe a 2.5-hour musical, but it's no less rewarding. It's just a very different kind of theatrical
It's
experience.
a shorter character arc,
Right,
as
exactly.
we say.
Yeah, and Barry, you've been a member much longer than Evan.
Right. I started in 1993 when Clinton took office. So I've been with them, I can't, math is not my strong suit, but you can figure it out. That's how long I've been with them.
And now I know that when the Capitol Steps started, that you had to have done work on the Hill.
Correct.
Did you do any work on the Hill?
When that was not, by the time I joined the group, that was not part of the requirement anymore. Although I did, in my background as an actor, do an industrial one time with Senator Lautenberg of New Jersey.
Oh, yeah, sure.
God rest. But so I had minor experience and interaction with a senator on the Hill for like 2 days. But no, not as a requirement of the Capitol Steps.
And it was still a requirement when I joined, but I had not had previous Hill experience, so they said, we want to hire you, but you have to have at least some concurrent experience on the Hill. So a friend of mine happened to work for the House Subcommittee on Health and the Environment when Henry Waxman was the chair.
Wonderful.
And they got me a job as an intern, and I worked there for the first year that I was with the Steps. And it's a good requirement, I think, because it was then, because you got a chance to see the people that you were parodying up close.
And I guess you coming in, as you develop characters, where do you find their nuances? Are you watching them on television or?
Absolutely, yes. I watch them on television. I listen to them on radio, watching news clips. One of the good things, because I do have a lot of issues with the 24-hour news cycle, but one of the good things of the 24-hour news cycle is that you can get so much information so quickly for a job like this if you need to, and that's great. And I would say if there's someone who's a more notable personality, or who I'm going to be portraying longer, or I know that they have a more sizable role in the context of the show, I will spend more time focusing on minor details, whereas if it's someone who I know is just sort of a quick one-off, I might just get some big chunks and make sure that I can get it out there before moving on to something
Your
else.
Scaramucci's.
Exactly.
The short-lived.
Right,
ones.
exactly.
I think it's
That came
remarkable
from-
that this show has so much in it between comedy and music and acting. Did either of you have a background that when you were younger that led you in one of these directions or the other? I mean, when you have to get up and sing and be funny and act and wear a funny hat, I mean, it's a remarkable skill. And I was blessed to see the show this past Sunday. And I'm telling you, when you see this show, you know, and particularly in an intimate setting like this, you go away thinking these are your friends, you know, because it's a very intimate show. And but what was your backgrounds that led you to this day?
Well, I studied theater in college, and I was, I was interested in theater my whole life. But the thing about this show is that you have to develop a whole different skill set because it's constantly changing. You know, I remember when I first joined the group and they handed me a song and they said, we want you to learn this. And I said, okay, I'll have it ready in 2 weeks. And Elena said, no, you'll have it ready tomorrow. And that sort of was
That's a little intimidating.
That was a little reality check
Yes,
for me. But you
yeah.
have to be flexible enough to go by the seat of your pants sometimes,
Yeah.
because and you're not always going to remember every lyric. But the thing is, I found in this group is that the audience is so happy that you're on top of the news that if you flub something, they're right with you.
They're very
You know,
forgiving,
they're
yes.
very
Yeah,
forgiving,
yeah,
and usually some of our best ad libs that go into the show come out of those moments.
Now Barry has a stint in this particular show, and being in Massachusetts where she plays Senator Elizabeth Warren, and I can't help but think that geography sometimes plays into your performances.
Oh, sure.
Because I knew as soon as you came out as Liz Warren that everyone's eyes here came open a little bit more because obviously she has a lot of fans
Right.
in this part of the country. You know, whereas opposed to if you go someplace else, I'm assuming you haven't played Moscow yet. So,
No, not-
so you were Vladimir Putin,
Not lately. Yeah.
which
Although-
is hysterical, by the way.
Although I did have a person who was Russian come up to me after a Reagan performance a year or so ago and literally said like something. The idea that I got from it was something like "You're too hard on Putin." Like I was and I was like. is that a joke or are you being serious? Like, are you? I was unsure how this particular
you
Russian
don't know what
person
the
really felt
reference is.
about Putin. But yeah. So but particularly in the Reagan building, we catch people from all over the country. I mean, last Reagan show I did. I wasn't doing the Brexit number,
Yes,
that
Brexit.
involves the Queen and Prince Charles, but there was someone from Britain there who worked in the British Army for 30 years, and I mean he very, very much enjoyed the number, but
Sure.
was sort of ripping us and giving us a hard time about
Yes.
what he saw, what was the actual experience. So you do catch people from all over the country.
Yeah, they have a
And
different
all over the
perspective.
world.
Everybody
the
has a
world.
different perspective,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, and that would be very interesting because not only geographically, then you're saying that there's differences, but when you have to, and Washington's a very international city, you get visitors coming in,
Yep.
and I think it must be very interesting for you to be hearing those things because it's really, with your guest earlier, our guest earlier, we were talking about how this is not a mean show. You know, there's not, you could go low and you don't. You know, there's always a stylized presentation, but you could go much worse than you were. I thought you were very generous to Vladimir Putin.
Well, I appreciate that. I
mean,
think so too.
Yeah, the visual
I think
is
it's a
funny.
lighthearted ribbing of Vladimir
Yes.
Putin.
Yeah, yes.
Because he doesn't want to have to hire a food taster.
Exactly. Exactly.
Is there a particular political character that you like playing the most right now? Or do you learn to like them, or are you swayed by what you've seen about them on
Sure.
the tube?
It ebbs and flows. I think for me, the person I enjoy playing most is, two. I enjoy playing Bernie very much. He is just such a cartoon and has been since he was in politics. And you know, I say that with great love because there's a lot of his politics that I think are worthy of being taken note of and part of our political conversation. But just his overall character is just a delight. And anytime you have a person that you can paint with such broad strokes
Right.
Yeah.
is really a delight. And then I also enjoy, I don't get as much of sort of a monologue with this person, but Biden similarly is very
Right.
fun to play because he's, also when you've been in politics for as long as some of these people have, there's so much fodder there from which to pull, and Biden is another one of those people.
And Evan plays Queen Elizabeth in one number he mentioned earlier, but just the visual gets such a laugh, and then your incredible facial gestures as the Queen. I swear you could do a weekly show tomorrow based on that performance alone. It was
thank
just
you. Yes, indeed.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm sure you use those faces and other things, but you saved them for the Queen. And
Try to.
they were just wonderful.
How are the audiences here in Western Massachusetts different, if at all, from the Washington audience or some of the places you go on tour?
I'd say our public audiences in general are very savvy, politically savvy. They're coming to the show because they know generally what to expect. They're here because they want to see political satire. The Western Mass audiences are very quick. They pick up everything, and that's always gratifying because we have some subtler lines that in certain surroundings don't always get a quick response, but they get a response here, and we really appreciate that because it helps us, up our game a bit.
Now, I would assume both of you have toured all over the country with the Capitol Steps. Any audiences that have been hilarious to you?
I will say that sometimes it's an important reminder to sort of check your preconceived notions at the door of what you would expect. I remember one time, and this was I think maybe in '08 when I first joined the group, during the election season, going to Utah and having a very specific idea of what I thought that particular audience would be, given the politics of their state and how they tend to vote and whatever. And they were one of the best audiences of the entire run. So I think that's what's fun is being surprised by certain audiences.
Yeah. I'd say
Do you
the same.
both hail from the Washington, D.C. area originally?
No, I'm from Cincinnati.
Oh, okay.
Originally.
And I'm closer to Baltimore, but in
I
that
see.
basic
yeah,
area.
basically the area. That's an interesting regional perspective because I've had other people tell me they go to Utah expecting one thing, but it's a very educated state.
Sure.
So that might play into it a lot, which is terrific, So
And it's fun to be surprised.
it is fun to be surprised.
And educational.
Absolutely. Yeah. I noticed there's so much subtlety in the performances that I almost I almost think that people would come back a second time and pick up a whole range of things that they didn't get the first time. You know, because sometimes when there's multiple cast members on stage, you tend to focus on one.
Sure.
But then you want to see another one.
Right.
Sure.
You know, because you're all doing different things
Right.
sometimes. You know. And
Are there any particular theaters that you've performed in as a theater, not the audience, that have really charmed you in any way?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, we love to do the really old, gorgeous theaters. They could be small, they could be big. I mean, I love theaters that have ghosts. You know, that's one of the. But,
And so,
but we're always
how
taking
many
pictures.
ghosts attend a Capitol Steps show in a particular season?
Well, they don't pay. They're comped in, I guess. They have their own comp system up there. But I have no doubt that we have had some spiritual appearances during our show. I always ask them for, you know, we're here, you know, we come in peace. I always say, you know, don't drop anything on our heads.
do you find? I mean, your roles are so specific in this show, and the parodies are so wonderfully written, that when you get off stage and you're doing your normal life in the DC area, do you find people coming up to you and recognizing you and saying, geez, I enjoyed your role as this or that?
You know where that seems to happen? I don't know if this has happened for you yet, but in venues where we're here for a longer
Yes,
stretch of
of course,
time,
yeah.
we'll always, you know, people will come up to us, you know,
Yeah.
in Lenox
Yeah.
or Pittsfield or Great
Right.
Barrington.
Yeah,
What about you?
that will happen, I think, to what you just said. It is funny, though. I almost think, I would say more of the opposite almost happens, at least for me, particularly after Reagan shows, is I mean, we go out and we greet people, but sometimes if people haven't seen us, you'll be riding down the elevator, they don't even necessarily remember that you were in it. And I kind of, I take that as a compliment in many
sure,
ways, because you've
because
worn
you're
different
right.
wigs, you're different
Right.
people, you're in and out, and then
Yeah.
you can sort of escape without having them ever really realize that that was you the entire time. So.
Right.
And I think
right.
the more you morph into those characters,
Sure.
then the less they're going to identify you as an actor in it,
Right.
which is
Right.
it is a compliment. That's wonderful. Yeah.
Now, you got the opportunity, Evan, this year to take some time off from the Capitol Steps to go into the woods. And
Yes.
I, in researching, you know, backgrounds on everybody, you and your wife have performed in a lot of Washington, D.C.
Yes.
theaters. So from what I was reading, I had lived in Washington. I went to college there, and I worked at Wolf Trap. The Washington theater scene has just blossomed since the time that I was
Right.
there.
Yeah, it really has just grown into something just tremendous. I would say it really started to turn into something really big probably in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then since then has grown into something even bigger. And it's a wonderful, wonderful regional community with lots of opportunities for both union and non-union actors, and a multitude of theater companies. And it's a very supportive theater community
Right.
too, where you know, people are encouraged to go in for different auditions that someone may or may not have known about before, and you go to support one another in the shows that you see, and which is not to say that isn't part of the theater community as a whole, but I think it's definitely specific to DC because we feel very communal, familial, and intimate there. We're very proud to be part of that specific community and proud of the work that we do.
You're so right. And it's your 10th anniversary today.
It is. It is my
Yeah.
10th wedding anniversary
Happy
today.
anniversary.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Do you and your wife get to perform together very often?
Sometimes we had a long stretch where we didn't, and then now we've gotten a few in the past couple of years, which is great. We did On the Town together last summer.
Nice.
I was Chip and she was Hildy. We are coming up. We have one. We're actually going to do Assassins coming up at Signature Theater in Arlington. I play Hinckley. She plays Moore. And then we're going to do another show together after that at the Kennedy Center, a TYA show, a children's show. So it'll still give me evenings free to do Capitol Steps. But but anytime we do, we will rearrange our schedule if the opportunity presents itself to do a show together, because it's such a great benefit for both of us.
Actually, Evan has worked twice with my husband.
Yeah,
That's true.
I was going to say, you
he
both have
was-
spouses that are performers.
Right. You worked together in Floyd Collins. He played your father in that
Scott
show.
played my
You were
father,
Floyd,
Floyd
and
Collins.
my husband was your father. And then in Into the Woods, my husband, Scott Cedar, also played your father, the mysterious man, and he
Yep.
was the narrator in the
Yep.
show. So I think you guys
Yeah, we have something
you
going.
make a good
we gotta
team.
find more father-son roles.
Exactly,
clearly.
exactly.
So we've got a thing.
Since the Capitol Steps tour so much, do you have a chance to interact with the theater communities in the cities you go to?
It depends. We not that often because we're usually in one city for one night. So, but in a situation like Cranwell, we can see we get to go to see other shows in the Berkshires, which is wonderful, and those actors on their day off can come and see our show. So, so it's less of a rarity up here than it is most of the time.
I think it's amazing with the show you do here that it's a show that has so much music and costuming and choreography and direction, but you really don't have a choreographer or a costumer or a director. You're kind of self-made.
Well, the thing is, we have numbers that go in the show so quickly that the people who are the first people to perform it usually try to create some. And everybody's got a little bit of this in their background. So, right. What would you say?
Yeah, no,
about
but
that?
it's a very collaborative, very very socialist experiment. No, it's a very, it's a very collaborative experience where there's a lot of input from everyone. And I will say that, I mean, we're all people perform various roles differently. All the tracks that you will see me perform in the show, someone else will perform later in the summer and do, essentially the same, but they have their own flavor and their own style and their own take. And we're all, but I will say that sometimes when we get together, there'll be things that we'll say, oh, just so that you know, like there's a laugh that someone gets here when they do this, or there's this little thing, or sometimes I kind of try to do this. Can you give me a little more space here? Yeah, we we acknowledge that for each other.
Do you try occasionally to go and see the show?
Yes, we actually are required to do that, and I think
great?
it's a
How
great
interesting.
requirement too, because you want to see how other people are doing your part, and you want to see how they're interacting with other people, and you want to see the laughs that another cast is getting that maybe, oh, I hadn't thought about that. I because everybody brings something unique to the way they perform, and sometimes you'll get to see them by interacting with them on stage, but not always. And so you like to get a chance to sit and see it from the audience's perspective and see if there's something that you could, some tips you could pick up.
Now, do you know in advance? Excuse me, Mark. Do you know in advance how if you specifically are going to be in the Berkshires for a while now, or are you going to change out with other cast members?
Yeah, the schedule is given out far. All of our schedule is given out far in advance.
And no one's in the Berkshires the entire summer.
Right. But you usually have our long-term schedules about a month and a half or so in advance, give or take. And then as you get closer, then you know more specifically what exactly the running order is going to be, because we don't know, obviously, if the news shifts or whatever, what the breakdown is going to be.
You know it's going to.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. So that comes out about maybe several days to a week in advance. But the summer schedule for the Berkshires is set up probably about a month and a half, 2 months in advance, so that we all know when we're coming up here.
Right.
Because it's a summer vacation.
It is.
Sure.
Exactly.
For example,
We're going to take a quick break to acknowledge our underwriters that make programming on 89.5 FM WSKB possible. I'm Mark Auerbach from Artsbeat Radio. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. Dennis Akins joined me today as co-anchor, and we're talking with two of the members of the Capitol Steps, Barry Barron and Evan Casey, and we will be right back.
Hello, I am Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. And as you know, I recently introduced a bill for single-payer health care, basically Medicare for everyone. Now, Medicare is not just popular with Democrats. Did you know that Dick Cheney used Medicare to replace every organ in his body? Doesn't have a single original part. We even had to issue him a new Social Security card. Now, some people think that single-payer is a left-wing proposal. Well, I am an independent. I never wanted to be a Democrat or a Republican because I refused to join a party that would have me as a member. I got that joke from my favorite Marx brother, Carl. Now, as you know, back when President Obama was running for president, Donald Trump wanted to see his birth certificate. Now, if he wants to try that on me, he's going to have no luck whatsoever because mine has expired. Right. Now, as you know, I'm running in 2020, and I think there are a lot of Democrats out there who are not sure who they want to support yet. So I am going to go door to door asking this one single question. Do I live here? And now I have this message for all of you people right here, right now. Hello, voters, my old friends. I've come to shout at you again, because you know my views are very clear. I've had the same ones for 100 years, and the visions that I told my rabid crowds are way too loud. They echo with the sound of Sanders. I may not like technology. I may still use an iPhone 3. Keep getting texts from someone I don't know. I think her name is Battery Low. But then someday, when the interweb is taken down by the hackers of the 1% who infiltrate the crowd, which is controlled by the corporate elite, don't come running to me and beg to borrow my fax machine. Because you should have listened to the sounds of Sanders.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Mark Auerbach from Artsbeat Radio here on 89.5 FM WSKB. Dennis Akins is joining me today. We're broadcasting from the Cranwell Resort in Lenox, Massachusetts, where the political satire group The Capitol Steps are in residence nightly except Tuesday through August 30th. With me is Evan Casey and Barry Barron. They're members of the Capitol Steps. They sing, they dance, they impersonate politicals, people from all over the globe. As they say on a television show, the songs and stuff are ripped from today's headlines. Although this is not a Law and Order type of thing. If you're interested in the Capitol Steps, their new album is called The Lion Kings. You can get information online at their website, capitolsteps.com. To get tickets for Cranwell, you can go to Cranwell's website at cranwell.com. And when you visit the Capitol Steps website, you can also follow them on Facebook, Twitter, and now Instagram. So welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And how are you enjoying the stay here so far?
Oh, it's fantastic, as always. As many places as I've visited up here over the years, there are always places I haven't discovered yet.
Yeah.
And so you never run out of places to go. I think last year we just happened to stumble onto the place, is it called Chesterwood?
Chesterwood.
The sculptures.
The
Where the
sculptor,
Lincoln Memorial
yeah,
was,
the sculptor who did the Lincoln Memorial,
Right.
and we were, oh my gosh, so we, and it was literally stumbling on it, which is
beautiful garden.
great, yeah. But there are lots of little places like that dotted throughout the area.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. I look forward to it every year, and just before I came up here, I was directing a production of Spamalot for a community college over the summer, and I was just as I was getting through tech and previews and stuff, which the show was going great, but the pressures of opening a show, I just kept thinking like, well, in a week I'll be at
in the
Cranwell.
Berkshires.
I'll be in the Berkshires. It'll be fine when I get to the Berkshires. So yeah.
We kind of think of you as our fresh air kids. You're coming
From our
the
nation's
city.
capital, yes.
Yeah. I got to ask you, you portray such wonderful political figures in the show. Have either of you had an opportunity to meet any of the real people that you portray, either in the show or elsewhere?
Actually, I don't portray her now, but I did have an opportunity to meet Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and
Really?
that was a real high point
my
for
God.
me. And she's quite the opera buff, I write opera libretti when I'm not doing this,
interesting.
so she and I had a fair amount to talk about. She also, which was news to me at the time, was a very, very close friend of Antonin Scalia.
Yes.
Because they
Oh,
both
yes.
loved
Right.
the opera.
Yeah,
And
yes.
at one point, somebody at one company actually wrote an opera about the two of them. She told me all this stuff. And, they had a little love song together about how the law is like love because it's organic and it grows. And it was really an interesting.
What a great country
Yeah.
that can happen.
It's wonderful.
I've actually also gotten to meet Ruth Bader Ginsburg because she is, in addition to being an opera buff, she's a theater buff. She's a regular attendee at Signature Theater in DC, and she goes all around. So I've had the
wonderful.
opportunity to meet her as well.
I understand that she did something at the Shakespeare Theater where they
Folger?
try
Yes.
they try a case from history, not real life, but it was about two Greek gods. I can't remember who, but she actually sat and the attorneys representing the characters presented the case, and then she ruled one another, and it's a fundraiser for Shakespeare
Wow.
Theater in
Yeah.
Washington every year.
Yeah.
It is. We haven't. I would say. I mean, I haven't met too many of the people that we've portrayed necessarily, but being in the DC theater community, you do see a lot of local politicians coming
Of course.
into theater, and it's always an exciting experience because we need. Well, frankly, I firmly believe, obviously, in the power of what we do as artists, and I think the more I see politicians experiencing art and theater, the better. So.
I think one of the things that's remarkable about your show is that, at least when I came last Sunday, you go away feeling very great about the country, very good feelings. And I think that's because of something we mentioned earlier, that you really don't go low. It's not a mean show, and it could be. There's enough funny things that could be done meanly, but you don't.
Well, we also think that there are a lot of are a lot of comedians who already go there.
Yes, that's a good point.
They take it there, and so we, in order to draw in as broad a base of audience as we can, we go up to a line, but we don't cross it.
Right.
So just so you're not gonna be entirely comfortable during the entire show, but we hope that we'll amuse you if nothing else.
And it also made me feel that, no matter what I am, it's so good to know that we can make fun of ourselves.
Sure, absolutely.
And I think that's has to be one of the tenets of the Capitol Steps, is that you're going to be it's an equal opportunity offender.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
and you find humor in everything, political.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of comedic power, at least, and also in terms of how the audience perceives it, and understanding that the joke is on you, meaning the person who's
Yes.
delivering the line or something
Right.
like that. There's a lot of clowning and buffoonery
Right.
up there, and I think that's good. Whereas a lot of the people that we talked about, the satirists, look, more power to the Stephen Colbert's and the Trevor Noahs and whoever, but
Right.
a lot of that is the joke's on you.
Yes.
I'm coming at it from a heightened perspective, and I think we do a lot of
So
jokes
interesting, Evan. That's so interesting.
And it's funny that the Capitol Steps for 38 years have remained the top of the political satirists, where others come and go. But there's so much of it right now. I mean, between the late night shows and Randy Rainbow and Musical, the
Right.
musical in New York and stuff, political satire is a really great thing.
And one thing about performing up here is that we've become a tradition up here. Every performance, people come up to us after the show and say, "This is my 8th year. This is my 10th year. We're coming back in 2 weeks and bringing our relatives." I mean, people. We are part of their Berkshire experience, and that is exactly where we want to be.
That's nice. You've created a brand, and
And the
it's
same
wonderful
thing,
to see
I've
that.
heard that people in that go to see the show in Washington, or people that live in the Washington metro area, bring visiting relatives, and we heard a story not too long ago about. I have a college kid who does the social media, who actually does the posts for the Capitol Steps Facebook page, and he pushed that we do Instagram. And I spoke with Elena Newport, who I work with doing some of the promotional things. And she said, "I don't know if that's our audience, but let him do it anyway." So he set it up, and within a week, got a message that a college kid from Maine, they were on a class trip to Washington, and they didn't want to go see Shakespeare. And they bought 14 tickets on their own to go see the Capitol Steps at the Reagan Building. How did you find out about it? Well, we saw it on Instagram. So You know, I think there are new audiences finding the Capitol steps all the time.
And then, of course, you have a wonderful relationship with NPR.
Yes.
I mean, how
yes.
long have you, as a group, been
Oh,
performing
since
with?
even before I joined the group, they have specials. You know,
And it seems like they
specials every
bonded
year.
with you right quickly after you were
Yes.
created. And now, Mark, is it twice a year that you do
It's
it?
twice a year. The last one ran over July 4th, and it's already posted on the Capitol Steps site. Were either of you in that?
Not in that one.
No, we weren't in that one, no.
Right. It must be
we
nice.
were up here.
I was going to say, it must be nice occasionally to get a break because you're in the summer. You're in the summer home.
Right.
But on the Capitol Steps website is a section called Radio, and the name of the show is Politics Takes a Holiday.
Right.
And the latest one from July 4th is up.
Is there anyone that you're not portraying yet that you would love to play someday? Because and I know it's driven by politics, and you're so busy creating the roles now.
Yeah.
But is there anyone you thought, geez, I hope he does something or she does something so I can play her?
Well, I do know that this isn't necessarily my. I mean, I like this person very much, but I'm saying this is more what other people have told me. Everyone's saying, like, are you doing a Pete Buttigieg thing?
Yeah.
Of course.
So now we do a number about Pete Buttigieg, but it's not
Yes.
specifically me portraying Pete
Right.
Buttigieg. So I think that if he sticks around, I'm certain that there's opportunities for me to play him. And thankfully, you know, he's only 37, so I could probably play him, you know, for another 30 years, give or take,
And
if
you
he
look
stays in politics.
Yeah,
Right.
You have that baby look.
But I wouldn't mind that. You know, I certainly like him.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And he's raised a ton of money, so he's
That's
going
right.
to
Yes.
stick around.
That's right.
And there's a
Huge
character
numbers.
that I was playing until recently, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and I am hoping against hope that she runs for governor of Arkansas, as she is rumored to do, because I thought I would like to get that character.
There's
back
got to
again.
be a little bit of diabolical DNA in any Capitol stepper.
sure.
Because
sure.
you know, you kind of want these things to happen. You don't want anything disastrous, but you want people to move ahead that
Right,
you can
right.
portray.
And we
'cause-
feel the same thing, you know, about on both sides of the aisle. I think you have to, whatever your personal
Sure.
political leanings are,
Right.
you have to bring the same, you know, savagery to the
Yes.
or fun
Yeah.
to characters on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, and that was evident, I think. That was lively. I had no idea, you know, what your personal
Well, that's
political
good. That's
proclivities
good.
are. But I'm sure amongst yourselves, you know. I mean, you must talk. I mean,
Or we don't talk.
No, we don't talk.
Right. Either or.
Yeah, you're a citizen of the United States, after all.
That's right. Right.
How many times a year does the entire group get together?
The only time we get remote, I don't think the whole group gets together, but remotely close, is if 2 or 3 casts are flying out of the same airport at the
Oh,
same
my
time.
goodness, you're kidding.
And then we all like try to gather out in front where we're checking the bags and get a group shot, because
Right,
that's usually
right.
the only time we see
I mean, there's
each
a
other.
lot of large group correspondence, obviously, based on when new songs come out, or
Right.
if updates need to be made, or specific you know, notes come from the office of this is the way this particular number should be done
Right.
for every group or something like that. But yeah, by and large, yeah, that's really is when ships passing in the night is when we sort of see each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you foresee in the future that there might be a special put together about bringing all the Capitol step from the past, people who have portrayed, and all the current cast together?
I believe we did that once for, I can't remember if it was the 20th or the 30th anniversary, and people came back. Even Chuck Percy, Senator
Yeah,
Percy
yes,
from
who-
Illinois, which is
where it
where
started.
whose office it started in. He came, and some of the other political figures came, Pat Leahy. So maybe we have our 40th
There's
coming up,
potential,
so
yes,
maybe
yeah.
some of we'll all gather in one place
God,
and
maybe
celebrate
Mark and I ought
that
to get busy
milestone.
with that.
Yeah.
Getting everyone in the Berkshires.
Big
So they do a
milestone coming
national
up.
presentation.
Yeah.
I can't help but think that Charles Percy actually has a bit of pride when he thinks about the Capitol steps.
I think
You
he
know.
did. He was, you know, he came to the show
Yeah.
more than once,
He was
and
a
I
good
think he
man,
had I think he felt like he was our unofficial father.
Right.
And being from Massachusetts, there are certainly many Massachusetts figures portrayed
Oh, yeah.
throughout the show now and in the past.
Right.
Yeah, Senator
I
Kennedy.
have a
for one.
question to ask you that a musician asked me who had seen the Capitol steps with different casts. I don't know what your vocal range is, but suppose you take on a part where from somebody else in a performance whose vocal range is different than yours. Does the music get transposed for you? And do you get a chance to rehearse a song with a pianist before you do it?
Yeah, I always say, and really not joking, that the most talented people in our group are the accompanists, the piano players, because they play everything from memory. They play everything learning just by ear, by watching the the YouTube video or listening to the CD or whatever the original track was, and then they will transpose it based on your own vocal range. So yes, so if I took over, or if, there's probably a given set of keys for most people. Nothing is usually too high or too low. There's a couple, maybe people on either extreme of the spectrum, but by and large,
Go on, or do you need to stretch?
no, we're fine.
You guys are pros.
All right, stand back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, everyone. This is Artsbeat Radio. I'm Mark Auerbach. You're listening to 89.5 FM WSKB. Dennis Akins is my co-host today. We've got two members of the Capitol Steps, Barry Barron and Evan Casey. The Capitol Steps, the great musical satire group that puts the mock in democracy, are performing at Cranwell Resort in Lenox, Massachusetts until August 30th, nightly except Tuesdays at 8 o'clock. And you know there's not a lot of concerts and performances on Monday night up here in the Berkshires, so that's a great night to see the Capitol Steps. Want to learn more about them at Capitol Steps on Facebook, Capitol Steps on Instagram or on Twitter, and the website is capsteps.com. And if you want to buy tickets online for the Cranwell performances, that's at cranwell.com. They perform in Washington, D.C. every Friday and Saturday nights. Tickets are available for that on Ticketmaster. It's so great that you guys can come up here for the summer.
We love coming
That's our
here.
favorite thing. Yeah.
There are no after performances.
Yeah.
No. I think just the curtain comes down, so to speak, at 9:30,
Yes.
and we're out the door.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It is. It's you put so much energy into doing this that I have to ask you. With the years that you've put in there, do you ever have a dream gig that you'd like to play somewhere, and talked about? And just, I wish they'd call and say, "Come on down, we'd like to do this," and that could be very personal, or a dream audience that you'd like to perform for.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure between college students and even high school students and you do some poly, you did CPAC,
Right.
So
I will say that some of the more rewarding. We talked earlier about bringing in younger audiences
Yes.
or newer audiences, and that is a very rewarding experience. We do one almost every year. I think it is annually at American University.
Yeah.
Right,
Right, that's correct.
And that's
Mark's
always
alma
They're right at the
mater.
beginning
It's
of
always
the
a
year.
huge response, and it's wonderful to see
Yeah.
young people. Just because A, you don't see them that frequently at the theater. Period.
Right.
B, it's not always our typical demographic of what we bring in, but also C, it's just wonderful to know that young people are actively engaged and involved in politics and in the arts. Additionally, so those are the audiences that I think are always rewarding to me, is to be able to see young people who are actively engaged.
Do you think that young people in general now, with the 24-hour news feed and stuff, are more engaged in politics than they were, which makes the Capitol Steps more interesting to them?
I think so. I also think that there are a lot of issues that are on the front lines right now that are going to affect them directly, and if they don't get involved, it's sort of at their peril. I think so.
Yeah, I do think so. Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but with candidates like Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg, that's going to help create that.
Right.
Because more and more young people will get energized again. That seems to be an ebb and flow in the last few years. When Barack ran, there was a huge flood of young people, and then they kind of recessed a little bit after he left office, and it looks like they're coming back again now.
Yeah.
So they can't. I'm sure that just alone would cause them more interest in what you do. And I'm surprised that cities I'm surprised Harvard or Kennedy School haven't had you people up there.
Oh no,
yet.
we've been to Harvard many times.
I was going to say, because
It's
that's
Sanders Hall. We go
perfect.
every year usually.
Thanksgiving weekend on Saturday, there's
Yeah.
always two shows at Sanders.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That would make so much sense because, Boston and specifically is such a political city. And of course, it's got probably more college students per square foot. than any
I
city
I
in
went
the
to grad
United
school
States.
there at
Did you go
Emerson.
there?
Yep,
Oh,
I'm at
wonderful.
Emerson.
Emerson's a great school. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm glad to
Emerson
hear
has
that.
produced more musical theater and news and media people than almost any other school in New
Absolutely.
England.
Yes, yeah.
The
I
new
imagine
artistic
the other one would be
director, the new
Northwestern.
artistic director at Hartford Stage, who's the first woman to be an artistic director of a theater in Connecticut, comes from Emerson.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, terrific, terrific.
Do you feel that your audiences are getting younger, or are they aging?
It really depends on where we're performing. Obviously, there are going to be, if we're performing in Palm Beach, it's going to be it's going to skew older. But
Sure.
if we're doing a college tour, we're going to have a lot of college kids.
Yeah, and I think also it's not that's not a challenge that's specific to us either. All theater
Yeah.
is working at trying to obviously bring in a younger demographic. Part of what makes us, thankfully, I think, more accessible is that we're more affordable, I think, than the average theater
Sure.
ticket for
That's
a lot of
true.
other places. So I know that can be a large challenge for young people trying to go to even regional theater these days in DC, where I work a
Right.
lot. The cost can be prohibitive. So
That's a
we're a
good
little
point.
more affordable than most.
Another thing I want to say about
Dennis, we only have a minute
Oh,
left.
sure,
So
you wanna
if
finish up,
you don't
sure.
mind, I'd like to ask.
Sure.
You're going on to do, you're here for a while, and then a new cast comes in, and you're going on to do theater.
Yes.
And Barry, what's on your agenda?
My agenda is I'm going to be, well, we'll continue to do the steps elsewhere. I'm working on a children's musical about Ben Franklin that I'm, as a
Nice.
child, that I've written the lyrics for, and narrating a murder mystery.
That sounds great. I want to thank you both for spending some time with us today.
Thank you for
The
having me.
Capitol Steps are here till August 30th. The cast changes every couple of weeks, so if you like it and you want to come back and see other people performing, there's no reason why you can't come more than once.
Right.
Isn't that right?
Absolutely.
And we've already, just in the last hour, missed like 5 news cycles. So.
Who knows who might be thrown into your show
right.
tomorrow.
That's true.
But anyway, for information on the Capitol Steps, capsteps.com. If you want to get tickets for the Cranwell performances nightly except Tuesdays through August 30th, cranwell.com. We have several people to thank for bringing Artsbeat Radio and the Capitol Steps together for the second year at the Cranwell Resort. And first, I'd like to thank the staff at Cranwell for inviting us here and allowing us to disrupt their day. It's a wonderful resort. It's being completely overhauled and renovated, but the Harvest Barn is in perfect condition once we reset the chairs back where they're supposed to be. I'd like to thank Peter Coles and crew for engineering this, Egan Pictures for photographing this for Facebook and Instagram, and would like to thank the Capitol Steps.
Thank you so much for having us.
It's been a pleasure.
And
I'm
thank
Mark
you all.
Auerbach. I'm here with Dennis Akins, and we'll be back with more Artsbeat Radio at the end of the summer.
Good evening. I am Russian President Vladimir Putin, here tonight to welcome myself. As you know, recently I have been major pain in Turkish. I know things are bad because I tried to travel to a nearby Eastern European country. I went through customs. They asked my name. I said Vladimir Putin. They said occupation. I said no, just visiting. See, I'm a fun guy. Yes. But as a result of my dalliances here and there, the USA has once again imposed sanctions on me. This is no way to treat your employer. And of course, as you have seen, I have had great success with cyber warfare program. No, I am not talking about hacking your military secrets. I'm talking about posting nonsense on social media and watching Americans go nuts. And of course, most of these stories are trumped up. Oh, 2 for 2! Yes! So now, will you please welcome my top team? No, yes. Oh, you can applaud for them. You wanted to. Go ahead. Yes. Now, as you can see, yes, they are nerds, but that is why we like to be called Vlad and the Red Squares. Want a good job at the Kremlin? Posting on the web lots of made-up facts.
Weapons, we don't need them.
Since we found retweeting,
All we Russians need is just a mouse and a Mac. Content we keep churning, most is disconcerting. Trolling, 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 trolling on the Twitter. Got a lot of likes on postings saying Bernie's plan will destroy the banks.
Lindsey Graham is a cross-dresser.
Warren's no professor.
Beto's really fat, but he's wearing Spanx. Post a new red herring. Dumb voters keep on scaring. Trolling, 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 trolling on the Twitter. What's the next attack I'm planning? Got a great coup I'll be pulling off. Wouldn't it be funny if in 2020 you elect a guy named Al Gorbachev?
You should not be gloating.
Don't trust machines for voting.
Trolling, 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 trolling on the Twitter.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Artsbeat Radio. I'm Mark Auerbach. You're listening to 89.5 FM WSKB. Dennis Akins is my co-host today. We've got two members of the Capitol Steps, Barry Baird and Evan Casey. The Capitol Steps, the great musical satire group that puts the mock in democracy, are performing at Cranwell Resort in Lenox, Massachusetts until August 30th. Nightly except Tuesdays at 8 o'clock. And you know there's not a lot of concerts and performances on Monday night up here in the Berkshires, so that's a great night to see the Capitol Steps. Want to learn more about them at Capitol Steps on Facebook, Capitol Steps on Instagram or on Twitter, and the website is capsteps.com. And if you want to buy tickets online for the Cranwell performances, that's at cranwell.com. They perform in Washington, D.C. every Friday and Saturday nights. Tickets are available for that on Ticketmaster. It's so great that you guys can come up here for the summer.
We love coming
It's our
here.
favorite thing. Yeah.
There are no after performances.
Yeah.
No. I think just the curtain comes down, so to speak, at 9:30,
Yes.
and we're out the door.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, it is. It's you put so much energy into doing this that I have to ask you. With the years that you've put in there, do you ever have a dream gig that you'd like to play somewhere, and talked about? And geez, I wish they'd call and say, "Come on down, we'd like to do this." And that could be very personal, or a dream audience that you'd like to perform for.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure between college students and even high school students and you do some you did CPAC,
Right.
So
I will say that some of the more rewarding. We talked earlier about bringing in younger audiences or newer audiences, and that is a very rewarding experience. We do one almost every year. I think it is annually at American University.
Yeah.
Right?
That's correct.
And that's
March
always
alma
Right at the
mater.
beginning
It's
of
always
the
a huge response, and it's wonderful to see
Yeah.
young people. Just because A, you don't see them that frequently at the theater. Period.
Right.
B, it's not always our typical demographic of what we bring in, but also C, it's just wonderful to know that young people are actively engaged and involved in politics and in the arts, additionally. So those are the audiences that I think are always rewarding to me, is to be able to see young people who are actively engaged.
Do you think that young people in general now, with the 24-hour news feed and stuff, are more engaged in politics than they were, which makes the Capitol Steps more interesting to them?
I think so. I also think that there are a lot of issues that are on the front lines right now that are going to affect them directly, and if they don't get involved, it's sort of at their peril, I think. So.
Yeah, I do think so. Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but with candidates like Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg, that's going to help create that.
Right.
Because more and more young people will get energized again. That seems to be an ebb and flow in the last few years. When Barack ran, there was a huge flood of young people, and then they kind of recessed a little bit after he left office, and it looks like they're coming back again now.
Yeah.
So they can't. I'm sure that just alone would cause them more interest in what you do. And I'm surprised that cities I'm surprised Harvard or Kennedy School haven't had you people up there.
Oh no,
yet.
we've been to Harvard many times.
I was going to say, because
It's
that's
Sanders Hall. We go
perfect.
every year usually.
Thanksgiving weekend on Saturday, there's
Yeah.
always 2 shows at Sanders.
Right.
On
Oh,
Harvard
yeah.
campus.
Right.
That would make so much sense to me because, Boston specifically is such a political city. And of course, it's got probably more college students per square foot. than any
I
city in
went
the
to
United
grad school
States.
there at
Did
Emerson.
you go there?
Yep,
Oh,
I'm at
wonderful.
Emerson.
Emerson's a great school. Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to
Emerson
hear
has
that.
produced more musical theater and news and media people than almost any other school in New
Absolutely.
England.
Yes, yeah.
The
I
new
imagine
artistic
the other one would be
director, the new
Northwestern.
artistic director at Hartford Stage, who's the first woman to be an artistic director of a theater in Connecticut, comes from Emerson.
Yeah, terrific, terrific.
Do you feel that your audiences are getting younger, or are they aging?
It really depends on where we're performing. Obviously, there are going to be, if we're performing in Palm Beach, it's going to be it's going to skew older. But
Sure.
if we're doing a college tour, we're going to have a lot of college kids.
Yeah, and I think also that's not a challenge that's specific to us either. All theater
Yeah.
is working at trying to obviously bring in a younger demographic. Part of what makes us, thankfully, I think, more accessible is that we're more affordable, I think, than the average theater
Sure.
ticket for
That's
a lot of
true.
other places. So I know that can be a large challenge for young people trying to go to even regional theater these days in DC, where I work
Right.
a lot. The cost can be prohibitive. So
That's a
we're a
good
little
point.
more affordable than most.
Another thing I want to say about
Dennis, we only have a minute
Oh,
left.
sure,
So
you wanna finish
if
up,
you
sure.
don't mind, I'd like to ask.
Sure.
You're going on to do, you're here for a while, and then a new cast comes in, and you're going on to do theater.
Yes.
And Barry, what's on your agenda?
My agenda is we'll continue to do the steps elsewhere. I'm working on a children's musical about Ben Franklin that as a
Nice.
child, that I've written the lyrics for, and narrating a murder mystery.
That sounds great. I want to thank you both for spending some time with us today.
Thank you for
The
having me.
Capitol Steps are here till August 30th. The cast changes every couple of weeks, so if you like it and you want to come back and see other people performing, there's no reason why you can't come more than once.
Right.
Isn't that right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we've already, just in the last hour, missed like 5 news cycles. So.
Yeah, who knows who might be thrown into your show
right.
tomorrow.
That's true.
But anyway, for information on the Capitol Steps, capsteps.com. If you want to get tickets for the Cranwell performances nightly except Tuesdays through August 30th, cranwell.com. We have several people to thank for bringing Artsbeat Radio and the Capitol Steps together for the second year at the Cranwell Resort. And first, I'd like to thank the staff at Cranwell for inviting us here and allowing us to disrupt their day. It's a wonderful resort. It's being completely overhauled and renovated, but the Harvest Barn is in perfect condition once we reset the chairs back where they're supposed to be. I'd like to thank Peter Coles and crew for engineering this, Egan Pictures for photographing this for Facebook and Instagram, and would like to thank the Capitol Steps.
Thank you so much for having us.
It's been a pleasure.
And
I'm
thank
Mark
you all.
Auerbach. I'm here with Dennis Akins, and we'll be back with more Artsbeat Radio at the end of the summer.
Hi, you guys. I'm like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And I am so excited because I am like the youngest person who's ever been elected to Congress, like ever. Isn't that crazy? I am the very model of a modern major liberal. I think that corporation and bank profits should be minimal. With open U.S. borders, there'll be no illegal aliens. You'll only get a tax deduction if you're vegetarian. I'm very well acquainted with the reasons we have rich and poor poor. Our problems would be solved if we just all banned guns, I'm pretty sure. Progressives will soon find a way to raise the wage you're living on. If you're a millionaire, I will tax you into oblivion.
If you're a millionaire, she will tax you into oblivion. If you're a millionaire, she will tax you into oblivion. If you're a millionaire, she will tax you into oblivion.
Our justice system must be changed. I want to write some drastic laws. Death penalties will be reserved for people who use plastic straws. In short, in dealing with the future and most things in general, I am the very model of a modern major liberal.
In short, in dealing with the future and most things in general, she is the very model of a modern major liberal.
I'm learning about Congress, though you think that my agenda's strange, but we will all be dead in 12 years if we don't fix climate change. My Green New Deal is gonna pass, big oil will be smarting now, as soon as we can figure out a cure for all those farting cows. I think the GOP and Trump are totally unbearable. Would being socialists like Venezuela be so terrible? You thought that Medicare for all was something not affordable, but that's before you met a Marxist this freaking adorable.
That is before you met a Marxist this freaking adorable. That is before you met a Marxist this freaking adorable. That is before you met a Marxist this freaking adorable.
I think it's time for old white men in government to hit the bricks. This Congress now likes vaping, avocado toast, and selfie sticks. In short, in dealing with the future and most things in general, I am the very model of the rising of millennials.
In short, in dealing with the future and most things in general, she is the very model of the rising of millennials.